Right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much to my live studio audience. Right, who here is ready for war? No, OK, all right. Well, get ready, because look at these newspaper front pages from today. Yes, as some of them are going to cycle through. Get ready for a war like our grandparents endured. A Labour minister, Britain's on a war footing. I mean, here's the head of NATO as well, Mark Rutte.
We are Russia's next target. Too many don't feel the urgency, and too many believe that time is on our side. It is not.
Right, well, just hang on a minute, because all these European leaders and politicians telling us that we need to get ready for World War III, our way of life is under threat. We risk civilization as we know it changing forever if we don't fight. Well, for the last 20 years, these same European leaders have told us that patriotism is a bad thing, haven't they? We've been told that wanting to protect our own national borders from this lot makes you a massive racist. Yeah, we were told we aren't nation states, we are European. We were told the English countryside is racist as well. We've been told our national flag is racist. And it's not just here. I mean, it's been happening in Germany for years as well, as Angela Merkel appeared to confiscate a German flag from a colleague. Oh, yeah, but fight for it, though. Fight for it. Yeah, please, come on, fight for it. I mean, we've been told that the fire service, the police force and the education system are all institutionally racist. We've been told to be ashamed of our history. Every single year there is a debate about whether or not Sir Winston Churchill, the man who won us the last World War, is actually a villain, not a hero. We're told that the royal family is too white. We all need to check our white privilege. We've been told that there's no longer a Christian country here in Britain. We're told that mass immigration is our greatest strength. Multiculturalism is the best thing ever. That importing 2 million Syrians to Germany was a great idea. That it's Islamophobic to point out the link between the Pakistani Muslim community and the rape gangs. We've run entire advertising campaigns for the British military around stopping in the middle of a battle to acknowledge the Islamic call to prayer. We have literally just booted army cadets out of a military base to make way for 600 illegal migrants in East Sussex. We're constantly told that there's no such thing as English or British culture. Every single year, some left-wing pillock tells us, did you know that St George was actually born in Turkey? Did you know that your full English breakfast isn't that English? The bacon's Danish, your baked beans are Native American, sausages were invented in Iran. Shut up, all right? Shut up. If you're proud of Britain, you're a racist, gammon-faced, thick little Englander. Oh, but now you want us to fight for you? Really? You want us to fight for you now, do you? I know plenty of people who would fight for European culture, but we've been told that we don't really have a culture and that other cultures that normalise things like veiling women should be put before ours. I mean, I know plenty of people who would fight for Britain, but there's not a cat in hell's chance that they'd fight for Sir Keir Starmer.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade, and in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney? Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel and the audience as well. What?
Well, before we do that, can you do your left-wing voice again, please?
Oh, do you know St George is born in Turkey?
Can you?
Oh, do you like fish and chips? They're from Peru. Yeah.
I want you. Please do the rest of the show in that voice.
No, I'm probably already on the brink of getting sad. Go on, Adam. What do you think?
They say, oh, you've got to fight for your king and your country. Well, sorry, I don't particularly like our king, and I despise the people that are running our country right now. In the summer last year, Keir Starmer labelled tens of millions of us far right. Right? Why should we have to give our lives for this mob? At the end of the day, look, Ukraine, what's happening over there is bad. But Britain is our priority, not a country thousands of miles away. I think there's a lot of warmongering going on. Would Keir Starmer's son be ready for service in 2 years' time? Because I've got a 16-year-old boy, and there's no chance. I will do everything in my power for him not to go abroad and fight and lose his life for something that we have nothing to do with. And let's just remember as well, we've probably got 2 million illegal immigrants in this country. So you're expecting maybe, look, I'm 45, whether or not I get drafted or not, I don't know. But I'm not going abroad with me and my son to lose our life while 2 million illegal immigrants are here where our wife and our girls are. No chance.
All right. There's a gentleman on the front row who I believe would like to make a point about this. What would you have to say about this topic?
Well, I've got a question for the panel on it, on war. And despite what you say, Germany, I believe, has just introduced some form of conscription across the nation. Yeah. And do you think that sooner or later this will come to our own country, some form of compulsory conscription?
All right, good question. Linda?
I think there will be some form of compulsory conscription. I think France is doing a form of it as well. Germany's done it. Other European countries have done it. So let me just push this back to the bare bones of what we're discussing here, because there's been quite a lot of digression. The fact is that Mark Rutte has said, in rather bombastic and emotional terms, we need to prepare ourselves for the kind of war that our grandfathers and our fathers fought. That's what he said this morning. Now, that's not strictly speaking true anyway, because we are going to fight a much more sophisticated war, if indeed we ever do. So it won't be anything like a war of attrition that we saw in the First World War, and it was wrong of him to use such emotional language. But where he was correct, he was right to say that we should be making ourselves develop a mindset for war, because President Putin, I can tell you this, has never moved from his original position. He will not debate this at all. He will always stick to the same line, and we need to be prepared for that. Can I just say one more thing? Because there's, you know, you hear it when you're a foreign correspondent sometimes. We used to say this sometimes. When a butterfly beats its wings on one side of the world, eventually you feel it on your side. Right. And if we give in to Putin again and again and again and again, we will have a problem here.
I get that, but then why for so long in this country have people who've been patriotic about this country been treated like dirt?
Well, I think that's wrong.
This is the thing, you know, and we've got to care about other people's borders. We haven't cared about our own. You know, people have been really, I think, slagged off massively in this country for caring about Britain.
Well, I don't think Putin will care about our borders very much.
There'll be an uprising. No disrespect. The average man on the street is not fighting for this lot, and I'm telling you now, they will never get us to go.
Look at things in the education system as well, Christo. You know, things like we've got to decolonise our education system. Britain's history has been absolutely slammed. They would ask us to fight for a version of Britain that, or a country that I think many people have slagged off for many years.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It breaks my heart, you know, when I watch things like... I watched Darkest Hour the other night. And,
it's a great film.
And that version of Britain the patriotism that people felt in that time. And the problem then, I mean, there were many problems then, but the big problem then was that it was a very, very defined enemy, and it was our values versus an enemy who had very different values.
It's much harder now.
It is much harder now, and it's much more grey areas now. But the other thing is that that we have an establishment now that want you to have patriotism on their terms, not yours. You're allowed to be patriotic when it comes to a jubilee or something like that, yes, but if you want to be patriotic in your way by putting up your flag or doing so in nothing, you're far right. You know, it's all of those sorts of things, and it's coming back to bite them on the bum, because everyone is saying, well, hang on, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell us, on the one hand, that when it comes to war or when it comes to a jubilee or when it comes to certain parameters, that you are allowed to be patriotic, but however, when it comes to every other aspect of your life, the pub, other aspects of your culture, when it comes to, you know, your education system, when it comes to us constantly analysing ourselves so that we're racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic and everything else every day of the week, no wonder people say, well, hang on, what on earth would we be fighting for?
Exactly.
What would we be fighting for?
All right, but Barry, can you have some sympathy for people who don't particularly want to line up behind, you know, European, you know, so-called allies who have frankly done a lot, I think, to desecrate the idea of national identity and pride over the last 20-odd years?
Well, look, pride takes different forms, but let me just say, I don't think anybody fights for a prime minister. If you fight to protect your family and you fight to protect your country. And what we're talking about here, let's face it, you know, Putin's submarines are already cutting communication lines, subsea cables. Putin's drones are already encroaching into airspace. This is not a fantasy. Mark Rutte is not some bigoted left-wing. God's sake, he's the executive secretary of NATO. Nobody could call him a left-wing
Let me ask you a
firebrand.
question. Do you think President Trump is going to stick with a relationship with this country and help us defend ourselves? Because I don't think he will.
Well, let me get to that. But I think you're right, Linda, that Rutte was wrong to say that we would have a conflict on the scale that our grandparents endured, was the words he used, the scale. This is going to be, if there is a conflict, it would be very, very different, because it would be attacking energy infrastructure. Just look at the way in which he's operated in Ukraine, focusing on their energy installations, cyber attacks, exactly.
We'll build some more wind farms then. We'll be all right.
But I don't... I mean, you trivialise it, Christo.
No, I'm not, because
actually...
I'm not.
Look, you see...
If energy infrastructure is being targeted, what do we do?
I've got huge sympathy with what you said about, you know, people have been dismissed as being racist if they're patriotic. That should never have happened, OK? Right. But if we... I actually don't think that Russia is quite going to invade Europe in the way that Rutte says. They have lost between 1.1 and 1.4 million people already in this war.
Right.
You know, but the best way to avoid war is to make sure that your enemy knows that you would win it. And that's why we've got to be strong.
And Trump?
But look, let's just talk about, because keeping it about Britain, you know, for a very long time, people have voted exclusively for parties that told them that we're going to bring down mass immigration, we're going to stop illegal immigration. You know, now we're in a situation where army cadets are being moved out of a barrack so we can have 600 male illegal migrants moved into it. There's protests there. The locals will probably have their voices unheard, and I've got every confidence that those migrants will be moved in. And then I think the cheek of it then to turn around to us and say, oh, by the way, you might need to do national service. By the way, you know, we might expect you to. We need to be on a war footing. I mean, there was a Labour minister today who said Britain is on a war footing. Well, I'm sorry, but jog on. You've not listened to us.
And the migrants aren't going to be called up, are they? So what? We've got to go abroad and leave our wives amongst the people, no disrespect, that are disproportionately raping and sexually assaulting the girls in our towns. No chance. If you think we're going to leave 2 million illegal immigrants in this country while we go, or our sons go and fight a war that's nothing to do with us, they've got another thing coming. At the end of the day, we would probably have 4 or 5 million illegal immigrants and legal immigrants that would be here and not be called up. Why should that happen? At the end of the day, we are the Brits, right? If we decide we're not going, we're not going.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because it will be the very people that have been failed for year after year after year by this government. It will be working class white white men, the ones that have been called racist, sexist and homophobic, the ones that have been failed in the education system, the ones that are committing suicide in their droves, that have been left behind by an establishment and the society that we have now, and then suddenly we turn to them and say, actually, do you mind going and fighting for us?
Or, by the way, blokes from the Commonwealth as well. You know, people from certain countries, like Fiji and all of that stuff, who actually, by the way, do not think that we've got a catastrophically awful colonial past and all of this stuff. They're, a lot of the time, they're the ones who are willing to put their lives on the line. You know, it's all very well and good to go and send them over there. Meanwhile, we're told that we need to decolonise our education system.
And prosecute. If you accidentally put a bullet in a Russian's head that we weren't meant to, this government will take you to court for it in 20 years' time.
No, thank you. Or if your tank wasn't net zero. You know, that would be the other thing.
We have done some other silly things, by the way, which is like have a load of electric vehicles, not military, which now our people in the military are told not to talk in because they're worried that they've been bugged by the Chinese. So we have been let down.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
No. But look, we have got a lot more to get through.